They are the unsung heroes of our modern world, the brave men and women who scale towering structures to keep our lights on. They are high-voltage linemen, and their workplace is one of the most dangerous on Earth, suspended between the sky and thousands of volts of raw power. Today, we're not just talking about the danger, we're talking about survival. We're diving into the history of a job where a single mistake can be fatal, and how innovation, training, and sometimes sheer luck have allowed linemen to walk away from incidents that should have been their last. Let's journey back to a time when the electrical grid was still a new frontier. The early 20th century was the Wild West of electrical work. Safety standards were minimal, and the understanding of electricity's true nature was still evolving. Linemen were pioneers, working with rudimentary tools and a heavy dose of courage. The risks were astronomical. A momentary lapse in concentration, a faulty piece of equipment, or an unexpected power surge could mean instant tragedy. Yet, even in these early days, stories of incredible survival began to emerge, teaching valuable lessons that would shape the future of the industry. One of the most foundational principles in electrical safety is grounding. Grounding provides a safe path for electrical current to travel to the earth in the event of a fault, diverting it away from a worker's body. Without it, a lineman can become the path of least resistance, with devastating consequences. Imagine this scenario from the 1970s, a story passed down through generations of linemen. Crew is working on a de-energized high-voltage transmission line. Standard procedure even then was to apply personal protective grounds. These aren't just simple clamps. They're heavy-duty cables that essentially short-circuit the line to the steel tower, ensuring that any stray or induced voltage has a safe path to ground. On this particular day, the crew did everything by the book. The grounds were set. As one lineman, let's call him John, was positioned on the tower, a catastrophic failure occurred miles away at a switching station. A breaker malfunctioned, mistakenly re-energizing the very line they were working on. Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of volts surged down the conductor straight towards John. It was a situation that by all rights should have been instantly fatal. But it wasn't. The moment the line became live, the protective grounds did their job. A massive arc, a brilliant, violent flash of light and sound, erupted as the immense current rushed through the grounding cables to the tower and into the earth. The force of the electrical blast was powerful enough to throw John back against the steel lattice of the tower. He was dazed, his ears ringing, the smell of ozone thick in the air, but he was alive. While he sustained some injuries from the concussive force of the arc blast, he survived a direct encounter with a current that could power a small town. This incident, and others like it, became a powerful testament to the life-saving importance of proper grounding. It wasn't just a procedural step. It was a lineman's most trusted shield against the invisible, ever-present danger. This story highlights a critical concept: induced voltage. Even when a line is confirmed to be de-energized and disconnected from the grid, it can still be incredibly dangerous. Nearby energized lines can induce a voltage onto a dead line, much like a wireless charger powers your phone. This ghost voltage can be more than enough to be lethal. Without grounds, a lineman touching that line would complete the circuit and the induced current would flow right through them. Another lineman, a veteran from the 1980s, shared a similar experience that underscores this point. His crew was replacing insulators on a de-energized 345,000-volt line. The line ran parallel to another, fully energized circuit for several miles. They had meticulously grounded their line at the beginning and end of their work zone. As one of the younger linemen was moving into position, his arm brushed against the supposedly dead conductor. Instantly, a small but sharp arc jumped to his arm, giving him a painful jolt. It wasn't enough to cause serious injury, but it was a terrifying wake-up call. The induced voltage from the parallel line was real and present. Now, the personal protective grounds were shunting the majority of that induced current safely to the tower. But the sheer power of the nearby line meant that a small amount of potential could still exist. It was a stark reminder that even with all precautions in place, you were never truly in a zero-risk environment. Every single rule, every piece of safety gear exists for a reason, backed by a history of close calls and tragedies. These survival stories are not just about luck. They are about a culture of safety built over decades. Let's talk about the evolution of that culture. In the early days, linemen often worked hot, meaning unenergized lines, with nothing more than leather gloves and a belief in their own steady hand. The development of rubber insulating gloves and sleeves was a monumental leap forward. These items are meticulously tested and cared for, as a pinhole-sized tear could render them useless. A story from the 1990s illustrates this perfectly. A lineman was working from an insulated bucket truck, repairing a connection on a 12,000-volt distribution line. This is the kind of line that feeds our neighborhoods. He was wearing his rubber gloves and sleeves, following all procedures. As he reached to make an adjustment, an unforeseen equipment failure caused the energized line to swing and make direct contact with his chest. For any unprotected person, this would have been the end. But the lineman was part of a complete insulating system. His bucket truck was insulated from the ground, and his rubber gloves and sleeves were insulating him from the line. The electricity had nowhere to go, couldn't pass through him to get to the ground. He felt the immense power pressing against him, a terrifying, vibrating force. But the current could not complete its circuit. His partner, seeing what happened, was able to quickly maneuver the bucket away, breaking the contact. The lineman was shaken to his core, with a burn mark on his shirt where the wire had touched, but he was otherwise unharmed. His survival was a direct result of the insulate and isolate principle, another cornerstone of modern line work. His gear, his truck, and his training worked together as a system to save his life. Beyond grounding and insulation, another key factor is knowledge and constant vigilance. Every tower, every line, every substation has its own personality, its own unique set of hazards. Seasoned lineman learns to read the environment. They listen for the hum of the lines, they watch the weather, and they communicate constantly with their crew. This shared knowledge is perhaps the most important safety tool of all. Consider the complexity of a modern substation. It's a maze of switches, transformers, and conductors, all carrying lethal voltages. A lineman once recounted a story of working inside one of these yards. His team was tasked with replacing a faulty switch on a specific circuit. The clearance, or a guarantee that a piece of equipment is de-energized and locked out, had been issued. They tested for voltage and confirmed it was dead. But as the lead lineman approached, something felt wrong. He paused and looked around. He noticed a temporary jumper cable, installed by another crew weeks before for a different job, that was still in place. This jumper was backfeeding the de-energized switch from a completely different and very much live circuit. The standard test they performed wouldn't have detected this unusual configuration. It was only his experience and his instinct to stop and take a second look that prevented him from walking into a live electrical trap. He didn't survive because of a piece of gear, but because of his accumulated knowledge and a deep-seated respect for the power he worked around. These stories, from the raw power of a fault current being diverted by grounds, to the invisible shield of insulation, to the life-saving power of a questioning attitude, are woven into the very fabric of the lineman profession. They are told in training yards and on tailboards before a job begins. They serve as powerful reminders that safety rules are not just bureaucracy. They are written in the language of survival. For every lineman who has walked away from an incident like these, there is